62. Discover perfection at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. From Philly steak to crispy chicken, every bite is exceptional. Add freshly fried fries or rings for a winning combo. Visit mavericksbeef.com or find them off Lexington and Roseville. Unforgettable sandwiches. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pounds.
Hey, y'all.
And Patrick is keeping the spaceship afloat in the control room. Hey, Patrick.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Well, what is on the show today? Taking care of our mental health is so crucial during these times, and has been such an important part of my life that we are bringing in Becky, McNattin, and Tara Martini from the show Feels Out Loud. They're gonna join us here in the second half hour. Up first, Joseph Darius Jaafari joins us. Joseph is the editor-in-chief and founder of Lookout. Founded in 2022 and headquartered in Arizona, Lookout delivers fearless journalism and community events with the unified purpose to improve and expand LGBTQ+ representation on the local news stage, while strengthening and engaging LGBTQ+ communities and their allies in the queer experience. Joseph has been covering LGBTQ issues, crime in the military, has appeared in Rolling Stone magazine, the Philly Inquirer, the Atlantic, Vice, other international publications as well. So very happy to welcome Joseph to the Gailey Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, can we start with your reporting on the Arizona legislature? Democrats have introduced 15 LGBTQ rights bills this session, but they all seem to have been dead on arrival and not reaching the debate stage. What is going on there?
Yeah, so this isn't any kind of like new tactic that Republicans can do. So essentially, the way that it works out in Arizona is that whenever a bill is introduced, the typical bill to law process is essentially a bill is introduced and then it goes to the House Speaker or the Senate President, and then they kind of assign what bills get heard in committees, and then it gets debated in committees. Then if it goes to committees, it goes to the Rules Committee, which kind of decides the constitutionality of a bill. And then if it gets approved by the entire Senate or House, then it switches the chamber, and then it goes to the governor for veto or for signing. You know, the typical like I'm just a bill, you know, the Schoolhouse Rock thing, right? We all kind of know it, right? But in Arizona and a number of other states, Arizona isn't unique to this. But when somebody introduces a bill, it really is up to the House Speaker or the Senate President if that bill is ever heard, period. If they don't like a bill, if they don't want a bill to be debated, they can just ignore it. And if they don't want a bill to be debated and they want the appearance of it to be debated, what they can do is they can assign it to a committee where the committee chair, who they appoint, and they know that they may not like a bill to be heard. That committee chair then has the ability to say, I'm not going to hear this bill. And so they ignore that bill. And so they just don't have it up for public debate. Or there's an opportunity that even if it gets through that committee, then the Rules Committee, the chair of that committee can just simply ignore it as well. So the name of the game is if you don't like something, a single person can simply just ignore the bill and just not have it heard for public debate. And so it's a big contentious problem here where there have been attempts to even have bills proposed saying that let's get around this by saying let's have bipartisan support for all bills that get proposed. Ironically, that bill was ignored. So that didn't even get heard by the public. And that was even proposed by a Freedom Caucus member, so a Republican as well, who even got that bill swatted by his own party. So it really is that it becomes like a one-party rule. And it's not to say that the Democrats wouldn't do the same if they were in the same situation, but it does kind of show that with when we're talking about representative government, when the party that controls whatever chamber that they are deciding what bills get heard, it really does leave millions out of the representative government process if they don't have, lawmakers who can have their bills heard.
It is a form of disenfranchisement.
100%. I mean, it may not be so nefarious as like you can't vote, but it is definitely one of those situations where, the rules of the game is that if you know that you have the power to simply ignore a bill that comes to your desk, that you can just ignore it and let those bills just die, then you can do it.
Well, in the sense that also, a district could elect somebody, person of color, queer, whatever, and they could just unilaterally say, well, we're just not going to do anything that you want out of hand.
Well, I mean, there was actually one scenario where I think this kind of talks to the politics of our time where I don't know if this is actually the politics of our time or we're kind of seeing it more pronounced these days, but we had a lawmaker last session who even said that I don't represent everyone in my constituency. I only represent the people who voted for me. And so even in that case, we're kind of seeing that even in more pronounced ways where the people who are elected, and again, I don't think this is unique to Arizona, but we're definitely seeing it in more pronounced places where the people who are, elected to these different positions are just kind of ignoring the fact that they do represent a wider swath than just, it's not like they won by landslides in many of these different cases. They won by margins.
And isn't the case in the legislature in both houses? I think the Republicans only have like a 2-seat. It's a pretty narrow advantage. Am I right about that?
So no, it was the case last session, but they definitely they don't hold a veto-proof majority, but they definitely hold sizable margins. I believe it's 6 in the House, 4 in the Senate. I believe. I could be wrong on those numbers, but it used to be 1 and 1, right? Yeah. And then in 2020, in the 2024 election, there was this assumption that there was going to be this big wave of progressivism throughout Arizona that would flip the Arizona legislature to blue in both the Senate and the House, and that didn't happen. In fact, Republicans gained more seats, but it's not a veto-proof majority, but it definitely is a sizable gain.
Right.
I was reading in your reporting about strike everything amendments as a way of responding to the holdup. Can you walk us through what that means?
Yeah, so essentially, strike everything amendments are they're fun little placeholder bills. So I, as a lawmaker, might submit a bill that's just a sentence, knowing very well that that bill is going to kind of go through the rungs of a committee, and at some point, I'm going to put some language in there that will be something that I care about. But it can be used. So the way the process works out is kind of the way that we saw it earlier in this session for queer communities, which is there is a bill. There's a Representative Lisa Fink, who is a far right lawmaker. She has proposed a bill that limits gender to just male and female, right? And one of our Democratic lawmakers did a strike everything amendment, which essentially says strike all the language in this bill. And she tried to replace it with an equal, a non-discrimination bill, because Arizona does not have a non-discrimination bill in place across the state. And what you need to do for that, usually the sponsor of the bill usually is the one who proposes that, or at least signs off onto it. It's supposed to go through a debate when there is a strike amendment. That didn't work because the committee chair in that situation didn't allow for debate. But that is what a strike amendment is supposed to do. But again, it kind of goes down to they have this tool in their toolbox, but with the party in power and the people in power of the chairs, the committees, you're still very limited in how you can fix it.
Is this a problem that's sort of like the filibuster in the Senate, where both parties kind of feel like, I don't want to get rid of this and amend this because I like it when I get to use it, and I don't like it, like this process. So do you see a desire of reform from the Democratic Party?
I asked, some Democrats about this, and I think there is a want right now, but when you pose the question to them, I think there is a holier than thou, like we would never use this. But I don't think that is entirely true. And I don't actually, I haven't seen any kind of bills that would get rid of or change the way that the bill to law process would, fix this, because I do think that the party in power would obviously love to use this, this power whenever they could. I mean, it's fun to say when you are the minority in, the legislature, to say that like Republicans are using this, to cripple us. But it's, I don't think for a second that Democrats wouldn't do the same. And Republicans would be, on, Newsmax arguing the same thing.
let's not talk about news propaganda. If I may, speaking of the legislature, so there is a ballot referral rather that is moving through the legislature to eliminate diversity measures both in schools and in state contracts. It's close to being passed. What would be banned? Seems like a pretty catch-all bill. What would be banned if it passes?
Yeah, so the way that it works out is, so we have bills and we have resolutions. So we have a Democratic governor who has been quick to veto anything that is pretty on the fringe side of the Republican Party when it comes to anti-DEI or anti-LGBT, or really far to the pro-business side. But this HCR, which is proposed by the House Speaker, Steve Montenegro, it would bypass the governor's veto, and it does have a pretty good chance of being approved by the Senate pretty soon. But what essentially it does is it goes to the ballot in 2026, and if passed by more than 50% of the voters in 2026, it essentially says that any state contract would not get any money if you use diversity, equity, inclusion in your hiring practices. If you prefer to hire, if you have a women-owned business and you want to use that in your contract, if you want to use that in your application for a state contract, you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't get money if you did that. If you are a queer-owned small business and you wanted to put that in your contract, or if you kind of highlight that, or if you tried to tout that, you wouldn't get state money. If you were a Black-owned business, or if you tried to tout the fact that you have 30% of your workforce is Black when we have 3% of the population in Arizona is Black, that would probably count against you. So stuff like that. Also would ban gender in conversations at schools. It's pretty far sweeping as far as what can be done is with state money. Basically, it is drafted similar to the executive orders at the federal level, which pretty much eliminates all conversations and any kind of funding of tax dollar money that talks or refers to anything outside of white male cisgenderness.
I've got to take a short break here. You can read all of the reporting from the Lookout at lookoutnews.org. We are going to have more with Joseph on the flip side. Be sure to follow us on Blue Sky for more progressive news and analysis. We're at thegaleyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners that use social media. Do you want an authentic way to connect with people in your life? Something more meaningful? Thousands of people just like you know that when it matters, count on Minuteman Uptown for custom quality digital prints. From Canva creations to self-published books, from business cards to banners and signs, we print everything. Find more information at mpuptown.com. Contact Minuteman Uptown today, and we'll help you connect to what matters.
You want to feel important? You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters, and that you can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We felt that way too. I'm Sergeant First Class Daphne Pierre from Robbinsdale, Minnesota, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Minnesota Army National Guard soldiers. We are people just like you, and together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit nationalguard.com/MN to find out more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Army National Guard, aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
You've heard of caucuses, but do you know why they matter? In Minneapolis, over the last 10 years, the candidate who wins the DFL endorsement has gone on to win over 90% of the time in November. It all starts at the caucus, and you can be a part of it. The problem? Most people don't show up. In fact, only 2% of registered voters usually participate in the Minneapolis City Caucus. That means a small group of people end up making decisions for the rest of us. If you care about safety, affordability, and the future of our city, showing up at your caucus is the most important thing you can do. Caucuses aren't complicated, and you don't need to be an expert in politics to take part. You just need to show up, ready to help decide who will lead our city in the future. Whether your most important issue is public safety, housing, affordability, or creating a city that provides opportunity for everyone, it all starts at the caucuses. Visit WeLoveMPLS.org to learn how caucuses work and why your voice matters.
Paid for by We Love Minneapolis. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
I'm Brian Strawn, and I'm running for City Council in Ward 1 because it's time to roll up our sleeves and get back to basics. Safe neighborhoods, thriving local communities, and city services that actually work. I'm a designer and a builder, and I'll bring that same hands-on mindset to City Hall. Practical, people-first leadership. Caucus for me on April 8th, and let's build a city that works from the bottom up. Learn more at brianstrawn.org. That's Brian, STRAHAN.org.
Prepared and paid for by the Strawn for Ward 1 Committee.
Owning a home, running a business, and raising a family in Minneapolis is getting harder. I'm Becca Thompson, and I'm running for City Council to change that. We can lower property taxes for families, support small businesses, and invest in affordable housing without wasteful spending. Caucus for me on April 8th. Let's build a city where everyone can afford to live, work, and thrive. Visit voteforbecca.com to learn more. That's vote, the number 4, BECKA.com.
Prepared and paid for by Friends of Becca Thompson 2025.
Welcome back to the Daily Show. I am your host, John Parker. It is 21 minutes past the hour. Our guest is Joseph Darius Jaafari, who is the editor-in-chief of Lookout. Joseph's documentary on abuse within the LGBT community, Woof, a Barcumentary, has won 3 honorable mentions at international film festivals, and his other video work has been published in the New York Post and Nation Swell. Joseph, you all had some really interesting reporting. Riveting, actually. The work that you all do there is just from a journalist's perspective, chef's kiss. I really appreciate what you're doing there. But there was a really interesting reporting around LGBTQ Arizonans leaving the state. And Minnesota, where we're based, is a trans refuge state. So we've seen a lot of folks coming to Minnesota over the past just few months even. Can you tell us about what you are seeing in Arizona as it relates to people wanting to leave the state?
Yeah, and I actually come to this conversation with literally right before I got on this call, a family that I'm very close with that has been constantly at the Capitol advocating for their son, has fled the country just this past weekend because not only are their son is trans, but the husband is U.S. citizen, but also a green card holder, and so they live in Tucson, and there's been ICE raids, and so there's just a worry. So they are just being proactive, and they have left the country altogether. That's just another added to the constant list of people who we hear who are leaving Arizona. The reporting kind of came out from, right after the election of Donald Trump. We had heard, you kind of hear after every single election, right? I'm going to leave the country. I'm going to leave the state, whatever. But it felt different this time. And so we partnered with the 19th. That's kind of what we do is we do long form investigative journalism. We partner with larger news outlets to kind of get the news out because we have the resources to do longer form investigative journalism. And, we kind of said, let's take some time. Let's kind of really, let's interview these people over a couple months to kind of see if they're actually serious about leaving. And they were all serious about leaving. And it's for good reason. Arizona has been for a long time considered to be this like weird purple state where you could be kind of safe to be queer. And I think after the election of Donald Trump and after kind of the rise of far right influence in the state capitol, I think that that bubble was popped. And so people kind of saw that they were not safe in Arizona, even in Phoenix and Tucson, which are these blue bastions in the state. And they didn't feel safe in, outside of very small neighborhoods. That's not really a great place to live. And they didn't feel that even though we have a Democratic governor, that was a great way to live at the whims of one person's pen. And, a lot of these things come down to school board issues, and a lot of families didn't want to, have to consistently try to move their children around to different schools if they had trans or queer children, because it wasn't just about, trans kids anymore. Now they're going after the openly gay kids and the openly lesbian kids and the openly bisexual kids. Now they're just going after all of us. So, I mean, as we have said for many, many years, it was going to be the trans people first, and then they're going to blow open the door to the rest of the community. So that's kind of how that story kind of meted out. And then after we published that story, we've had a number of people come forward and say, yeah, I've left too. So it's been a swell of people who have left. And, we've had lawmakers. We did a follow-up. We did a follow-up with a number of lawmakers who kind of said, like, this is a stain on the face of Arizona that people are fleeing our state when arguably the culture of Arizona has long been a live and let live state. It's been that Wild West attitude, but it's no longer that.
Are there any quantitative numbers to give folks a sense of, the numbers of folks that are doing that, or is there anyone even collecting that data yet?
No. And so we tried to. So there's really a couple different ways you can do it. So there are surveys. Obviously, we really relied on surveys from the Trevor Project. We relied on surveys from Glisten. There's also some progressive surveys out there, which obviously, you can only rely on for so much because they're a bit, slanted towards progressive causes. But essentially, the ways that we tried to even do it was looking at MLS data. So people who are selling their houses. But in Arizona, that's kind of complicated because you have to be married to kind of have a certain title. And it's kind of assumptions that people are selling their homes instead of maybe renting their homes, when Arizona is a booming state with rentals. So you could compile a number of different data to kind of see exactly how many people are leaving, but the numbers were so small compared to like the anecdotal that we were hearing. And it was easier to kind of see from a national perspective. So there weren't any kind of ways that we could see how many people were actually leaving, which was unfortunate because we tried like a number of different ways, but the numbers just didn't kind of like ethically and journalistically, the numbers didn't like kind of show there was a huge swell, but we definitely could see on the ground people were up and leaving.
It did. I mean, to your earlier point, it always feels like every election there are folks that are like, I'm leaving the state if such and such person, right, or the country. This time though was even different personally for me because I had people either coming with spreadsheets that were showing me like their Google Docs of I've looked at this country and this is what I need. I had a friend who was like, this is the point in Minnesota that I know will not be patrolled. And my friend and I, they're both trans, like we can get over the border right here. And we know we can escape that way. I mean, it was that level of thinking that was so much different right than the previous, like when Bush was elected or installed and then reelected in 2004. Something that I appreciated as I was reading your article on this was you were also sort of putting in place, Arizona was that live and let live state. And yet there are a variety of things happening there. For one, Oberfelge is the fear of that being overturned has a different new flavor in Arizona because the group Alliance Defending Freedom that helped get Roe v. Wade overturned is also now is Arizona based and is trying to get Oberfelge overturned as well.
Yeah. So then also keep in mind that Arizona is like a number of states where we still have a constitutional ban as well as a legislative ban on same-sex marriage. And so not only do we have this, like, if Obergefell is overturned, we definitely have this hurdle. And there have been multiple attempts to try to get rid of that constitutional ban. But just as we were talking at the top of the hour, those bills never get heard or even up for public debate, even though there's wide support to get those overturned. So on top of that, you have multiple groups such as the Center for Arizona Policy, we have Turning Point USA, we have the Alliance Defending Freedom. Those are all based in Arizona. And those are all kind of the major groups that are really pushing for same-sex marriage to kind of get overturned. Not to mention America First Legal Foundation is really a heavy presence in Arizona. They have multiple lawsuits protecting representing different organizations here and different people here. So, Arizona has always kind of been seen as, yes, a live and let live state, but it's also kind of been seen as like a petri dish for far right ideals. And even if it can't get past here, it will get mocked up and kind of duplicated somewhere else. I mean, it's important to note that the first bathroom ban that was introduced in the country was introduced in Arizona in 2012 by John Kavanaugh, a state senator here who still is who still represents Fountain Hills.
Wow. Joseph, this has been so lovely. Thank you for joining us here today. I would love to have you back to talk more about your excellent journalism. You can go to lookoutnews.org to read all about it. They have actually a very important investigative report coming out tomorrow about LGBTQ liaisons in the police departments. Joseph, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
We'll have more after the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Gailey Show.
This is Santita Jackson, Monday through Friday, 6.
Hey, Becky, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Wonderful.
Technically, our live stream is still going right now on YouTube.
Okay.
So those folks can hear everything that we're saying right now, but we wanted to make sure that your mic was working, everything was good. Is it just you, or is Tara going to join as well?
Tara's coming, but I guess I don't know where she is, so we can just start.
All right. Great. So we'll switch back to the news feed here. The segment will start at 33 minutes after the hour, so 2:33.
Okay, sounds great.
And on the chat, do you see the chat on the right-hand side there?
I do, yeah.
I'll put time cues in there.
Perfect.
Great. And the first segment is 15 minutes, and the second one is 8 minutes, just so you have a sense of that.
15 minutes and 8 minutes. Great. Okay.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah,
Hi,
thanks for
Becky.
having me.
Patrick, just letting you guys know everything sounds good.
Oh, hello, Patrick.
Hopefully I'll see you and Tara on Thursday.
Yeah, you'll see me Thursday.
All right, cool. All right, well, I'm going to get us back to the main feed then.
Great.
Tests ensure that your lawn will be healthy, lush, and green. I don't even have to worry about bringing my furry friend to the station, thanks to the great care from Natural Lawn. I highly recommend Natural Lawn to keep your lawn beautiful, healthy, without compromising safety and sustainability. More at naturalawn.com.
I'm Rachel Schroman, owner of Schroman Law, and I believe you. Our firm offers free.
Sorry, I kind of did that in the wrong order. Tara, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay,
Hey,
cool.
Tara. I'm John. Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Hi, John. It's so nice to meet you.
Likewise. This is Jim, our executive producer.
Hi,
Hi,
both of you.
Jim.
Nice to see
Hello,
you.
Jim.
So we will start at we will start in less than a minute, actually.
Okay.
2:33. The first segment is 15 minutes. Then we'll take a commercial break that's 3 minutes, and then we'll have an 8-minute segment after that.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
In the most pain-free way possible. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Chamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at chamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 49. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 36. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 62. Discover perfection at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. From Philly steak to crispy chicken, every bite is exceptional. Add freshly fried fries or rings for a winning combo. Visit mavericksbeef.com or find them off Lexington and Roseville. Unforgettable sandwiches. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pounds.
Hey-o.
In the control room, keeping all of this flying high, Patrick Lilia. Hey, Patrick.
How's it going?
It is going. I am very happy. It is going very well because I'm very happy about our next guests. Taking care of our mental health is so crucial during these times, and it has been such an important part of my life. So I am very pleased to welcome Becky McNattin and Tara Martini from the AM 950 show Feels Out Loud. On Feels Out Loud, Becky and Tara have candid conversations about real experiences, human emotions, and mental wellness. Becky and Tara, welcome to the Gailey Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here.
Okay, so I am feeling a lot, and I'm feeling it out loud. So
Good.
Well, that's good. That's what
Oh.
we want.
So first, why don't we start with your show? Tell us about your show, which is so great. So happy to have you here on the station.
Yeah, we're newbies to the station, so our show has kicked off in January. We air on Sundays at 9 a.m. and we really are on a mission to bring conversations outside of the therapy room. So we are clinicians here at Becoming Together. Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness is who sponsors the show, and we are all therapists who really want to bring that conversation to the radio waves on what does it mean to live mental wellness. And certainly we come from a place, John and Jim, about a deficit model on illness and not on wellness. So we purposefully seek to talk about things that would promote wellness and health, understanding that that requires maintenance and sustaining, and huge bias from us that connection and relationship are key factors in doing so. So part of what our show is really about is helping promote conversations between our listeners who might be listening together on a Sunday morning, and anytime that people decide to tune in, on what are some deeper conversations they can have with each other.
Well, and the show offers this opportunity to, we can only see so many clients per week in our setting. And it's that idea of, we love that we have that connection with our clients and with our coworkers, but the radio show really provided us the opportunity of how can we touch and impact more people. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to have an audience and hear from people and feedback going like, oh, I listened to this and I used this technique or whatever it was. And so it's such a gift that we get to share it with others.
Yeah.
I love this. Congratulations on the show. Some really lovely episodes that you all have been producing. And I like normalizing, so I like sharing with folks that I have been in therapy multiple times during my life, which has been so crucial as a queer person, whether it's helping me navigate what's happening in the world and also just sort of helping put things that were happening in my past that were still coming up for me and just sort of putting it into the past. And I'm thinking specifically about EMDR work has been so, crucial right in my life. Walk us through, like, when folks tune in on a Sunday morning, like what are the feelings out loud that they can expect on a given episode?
Yeah, well, it's a broad range.
Right.
Part of what we hope to do is even spur conversation that will continue to bring lots of feels into our future episodes too. But you mentioned something, John, I so much appreciate your willingness to talk about your own experiences in therapy. We do that also on the show, seeking to normalize the discussion around mental health and what therapy looks like for people who have not been in therapy before. And we are in a time and space that helplessness and hopelessness is effectively rampant. It might be its own epidemic, and people needing spaces to talk about how they're impacted by the world around them. And so things on our show are everything from how to engage in conflict has been an aspect that we've discussed on the show. What do your anger personality types look like? We just had a show Sunday on what we call the apathy to empathy cycle, and that perhaps empathy leads to spaces of apathy right now, hopelessness, helplessness, not because we are void of feeling, but because we are flooded with feeling. And we are so immersed in the pain of other people that we tune out. And part of what we talked about just Sunday, a couple days ago, was how power systems want and need us to be apathetic and hopeless because we isolate and disconnect from one another, and there is power in masses. So it is an actual tool that's used to continue systems of power, but also how to be gentle with yourself if you're noticing those moments of disconnect in a way of it's a sign of that your body is telling you you might need some nurture and self-compassion. We've talked about how to parent. Tara and I are parents ourselves. We've talked about the mental health impact of what that looks like, how to parent kids who are dysregulated. We've had shows around self-criticality. We just had someone on the show a couple weeks ago that will be airing soon around grief. And both Tara and I are very open about our own grief stories and our own paths of wellness and illness, and who has been helpful for us in that. And so we try to have guests on. We have had definitely other therapists who are at our private practice in Eden Prairie and come on and talk about, you mentioned, John, EMDR specific modalities. We've had people come on and talk about somatic types of treatment. So that would be body forms of mental health care, yoga. We dance and movement therapy are people who are at our practice. People who are kind of doing some different strategies outside the box in what mental health care looks like. And so we really, from personal experience to people who are treating clients in the field, we want to have that all on the show.
And it's a great chance to, as far as your question about what feels do we discuss, it really does happen organically, right? So we'll set our agenda and our script for an episode on anger, for example, was our first one. And then that morphed into, well, what are the languages of anger and how they're received? And then that morphed into something else. And then you find yourself doing several episodes on one topic. And so the beauty of it is also we get from our viewers too, right? Like a question might stand out to us one episode and it's like, okay, let's roll with that and go on. But it is really an organic process, which has been lovely for both of us.
I love that you break down the different modalities, and I just EMDR. If you folks get a chance to see what it's like, it's absolutely phenomenal, life changing for me. I could not believe how the power of that and how effective it was in terms of resolving things that other forms hadn't worked before. And that's the thing that I love that you're talking about the different modalities, because it's not just okay, well, my therapist is doing X. You can ask, you can say, hey, can I try this other thing? And they most likely may have the ability, to do that or refer you to somebody to try, a different type of therapy that can be completely transformational.
Yes.
Well, and we say a lot too, I'll say to clients that talk therapy is such a tremendous thing, but sometimes it can only get you so far, right? Where you find, okay, I've been meeting with my therapist for 3 years and I feel like to the core of me, I haven't explored that. And so the same as you, John, I've done EMDR. It has been life-changing. It then spurred a curiosity in me where I was like, well, wait, I want to be able to do this for my clients. So I am certified in a more, I'd say, one of the newer modalities, brain spotting, and provides the same impact as EMDR. But it is absolutely, I can tell you, I'll work with clients, for a year on whether it's a trauma or whatever it is. And brain spotting within one session will bring up and they'll say, whoa, I didn't even know that existed. Or I've never talked about that before. It's something that, and what I love about Becoming Together is that we each have those little facets and extensions of things and modalities that we can do to assist our clients in really delving deeper.
Well said.
I think for folks who are like EMDR, what EMDR is the way that I had it, because there's lights, which I can't do because I'm an epileptic. So I had the tappers, which is where you have a little device in each hand and it vibrates, and the therapist changes the pulse length and how fast that it goes, and then asks you a series of prompts. And it's just it's fantastic. Another one I was really appreciative of was I don't know if it's which is the one where I would have a conversation with a younger self. So I literally would be on the couch and I would say, have a question for my younger self, or I would have something to say, and then I would literally get up and move to another seat and sort of inhabit that and listen to it as like my 16-year-old self, and then respond. And I had just kind of have these back and forth conversations. Is there like an official name for that, or?
Well, it might be Gestalt therapy. What you're talking about is a really commonly used strategy in a certain modality. It's called the empty chair technique, where someone either can speak to the empty chair and there isn't someone sitting there, or they can actually move to that chair and speak to parts of themselves.
And it may sound silly, but I remember when I did the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try this. I'm good. I'm committed to my wellness
Yeah.
journey. And I sat down in that chair and like my body literally went back to how I used to sit as a 16-year-old.
Yep.
Not even intentionally. It responded and it knew what it wanted to do. And therapy, y'all, therapy. So I love that we have this show here on the station. Something I do want to ask you about, both of you, that's been coming up a lot since the election. We saw it really kind of spike around the holidays. Thanksgiving was sort of the big one, about setting healthy boundaries with family members, with colleagues at work, and particularly for queer folks that are like, I don't even know if I want to have the same conversations that I used to have before the election, because now my workplace doesn't seem safe, or I have no idea, if this particular uncle or cousin is going to now feel empowered to just go on a rant. Can you walk us through healthy ways of setting boundaries?
That's a great question. I think one of the first things is, I think people realizing that boundaries don't have to have a negative connotation, right? Boundaries can just mean that it's for the benefit of myself, but also for the other person, right? So many times we think about, well, I need to create stronger boundaries, and the only person that's going to receive it and receive something in return is me, but it's also helping the other person, right? Without directing them and giving them, ways to, here, you need to do this. By me setting boundaries, I'm creating an opportunity to create a better environment and relationship with the two people and clear communication. And what I will always say to clients, and you nailed it, John, when you said regarding the election, so many people will say, well, oh, I'm just so triggered by uncle whoever or grandpa or grandma. And it's a simple of, then why do we welcome those conversations with the people that will trigger us? We don't have to have those conversations, right? If what you need, and we've talked about this regarding putting emotions into social media, is what are you hoping to get out of it? Well, if you're hoping to get support on your fears and frustrations regarding the election, then I probably wouldn't go to the person who is triggering. I would reflect and go, who in my world can offer that support and validation that I need to bring myself some inner peace during such a time of uncertainty and unrest? So that would be my...
Yeah, well said, Tara. I would. We talk about this lots on our show, John, around being aware of ourselves, and boundaries starts first with what's happening for me, and what emotions am I experiencing right now, and what do I need from that? What do I do with that? And so often we leap to boundaries first before we understand what's happening for me. So sometimes that is truly, it does sound corny, but a dialogue with ourselves around, what am I feeling? There is so much hurt and relational hurt probably for the listeners right now, even in the...
I hate to interrupt you. I gotta take a quick break. More with Becky and Tara after this commercial break.
Hey, it's Tom. As the birds begin to sing and the days grow longer, there's no better time to spring into savings than now with All Energy Solar. Spring is perfect for home improvements, so why not choose a project that saves you money and helps create a cleaner, greener planet? While solar panels require an initial investment, the savings on your energy bills quickly add up. With a lifespan of at least 25 years, your system from All Energy Solar can save you tens of thousands of dollars over time. Act now and you can still take advantage of the 30% federal tax credit. Plus, you may qualify for additional incentives depending on where you live. The future is uncertain, but with solar energy, you can lock in your energy rates for years to come. With All Energy Solar's experience and expertise, they'll guide you toward a greener future and unlock the full potential of solar power. Take the first step toward energy independence and a greener future. Get a free consultation today at allenergysolar.com. That's allenergysolar.com.
Coming up this Wednesday on The Gaily Show, we are rebroadcasting our recent Thinking Clearly, Thinking Queerly episode with attorney Tim John Summerlin, who shares his experiences in Gitmo as a gay American working on death penalty defense cases. It's a conversation you are not going to want to miss. So join us Wednesday at 2 p.m. or stream us on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Blue Sky for ticket giveaways and more progressive news and analysis. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Join us April 10 through 12 at the Capital Readiness Summit, where we're bridging the gap between investors, support organizations, and the entrepreneur community. In just 2 days, you'll make connections that could take you years to build. With over 180 degrees of networking power, this is your chance to meet people you've been looking for. But hurry, the summit sells out every year. Register now at www.connectupmn.org. That's connectupmn.org. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn for updates and discount codes. If you're an entrepreneur and investor, you don't want to miss this event of the year.
I'm Dr. Stefano Sinacropi, an orthopedic spine surgeon and wellness evangelist, hosting the brand new Recharging the Human Battery show on AM 950 radio. My co-host Mandy Dickey and I will delve into various health topics ranging from medicine to nutrition to exercise, emerging technologies, and yes, some way out there stuff. Will provide a balanced view of today's landscape, helping listeners navigate its complexities and hoping to change the way you think about your health. Recharging the Human Battery airs Saturdays at 11 a.m.
Hey everyone, this is longtime AM 950 host Ellie Krug. I'm thrilled to announce my brand new show, The Illegal Trans Woman, which takes advocacy for my community, transgender and gender variant people, up several big notches. The Illegal Trans Woman will feature interviews, commentary, and information aimed at pushing back against efforts to oppress trans and gender variant humans. Please tune in on Saturdays at 4 or wherever you go to get your podcasts. And do me a favor, share about the show. Thanks.
Welcome back to The Gaily Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We're back with Becky, McNattin, and Tara Martini from Feels Out Loud, which airs Sundays at 9 a.m. here on AM 950. I love y'all's description of the show. I'm just going to read one sentence from it. Professional experience meets humor and humility as we navigate a healing journey of honoring feelings and becoming our truest selves. It's messy, it's hard, it's worth it. And your show is so worth it. Talk us through, so we were talking about boundaries beforehand. Walk us through somebody who may be listening right now, queer or otherwise, who may be thinking, I don't know if therapy is right for me right now, but they may be going through some things. Which I'm sure you get this question a lot. But for our listeners.
We absolutely do. And that's part of, as Tara said at the beginning of this segment, we're aiming to talk to in our show. I'd say to this listener or any listener who's saying, I'm not sure that therapy is for me right now, tune into our show and join the dialogue around emotions and what those are and how those show up in your life. And therapy, you're talking to two people who believe therapy is actually all the things. And so therapy is applicable in all sorts of ways, and it isn't only sitting in a clinician's office talking about something. So therapy really is what promotes us being able to be our truest selves and what that looks like. And it can look all sorts of ways, from hobbies to various expression to certainly coming into a clinician's office. And we want to normalize the whole experience of therapy. For anybody listening who hasn't been in therapy, of course, we have big bias. It's amazing. And we would say, seek it. And really, I am 100% serious when I say, if you don't know where to go, please call us and we will help you find who you might be looking for too. We believe very firmly and passionately in we don't have to be the fit for you, but we do want you to find a fit. And so if there is something in your life, everyone is owed witness. I 100% believe that you are owed that. You are owed partnership in your journey. And life is painful, and we mean it when we say it's messy and it's hard. Do not do it alone. We are with you in it. And if you don't know who else to call, please call us. But that's really what we're hoping to do when we bring the show out to people, that you see us as partners in the journey.
I love that you're using the word witness. there, because there were times in my own journey where I had some goals and I was working with a particular provider. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to kind of sneak this in here and just sort of, mention this, and not knowing what was going to happen. But the response was so lovely. And I even found myself becoming emotional because I'm like, oh, okay, that was a thing that I went through. And that did suck what I went through. And I'm having a witness that's affirming that was a thing. And now I'm able to sort of, okay, let's address this. Like, how do we, and a lot of times I had a provider was like, yeah, it's messy because what you went through was messy. And now we're cleaning it up. And I'm like, oh yeah, this wasn't me. It was this horrible homophobia that I was dealing with, or something that, that I was dealing with at work. And I know, see, can you tell that I'm also with you right there on the value of therapy?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was even just knowing when there was a particular, I'm thinking of a very particular work experience right now. And it was some serious stress there. And even just knowing, I'm like, I didn't think of it as compartmentalizing. And I don't know if you would characterize that as well, but I'm like, I just know at Monday at 3:00, I'm going to be able to talk about this. So I'm just going to put this on my to-do list for Monday at 3:00 so that I can get through my week. And then when I get there, I can deal with it and, really begin to process what was happening. And just knowing I'm going to have somebody who's going to hear this and validate it and witness it. I love that word, witness. It's just so important right now.
Well, and you said something, John, a second ago regarding I'm going to put it in my to-do list and then I'll address that, in therapy, is that a common practice I use is I will have clients create a list, because they'll come to therapy and go, oh, well, I knew I wanted to talk to you about something, but I can't remember. And so I say, make a list, but not only is that list going to serve you in the way that you'll remember what you want to talk about, but it's also going to serve you because you are putting it in that list, or you are putting it in that box, and you are just leaving it right there. Because right now I don't have the capacity to take it on, but when I'm with Tara, I will. And it's also that idea of you can separate oneself from those issues long enough to get you into that cozy little office or that walk in the park or whatever the setting is we're going to meet. And then you get that time. And the last thing we say to everyone, and we hope people listen, is you don't need a tragedy or trauma to be in therapy. It can be for everyday things. The world would be a better place if we all had our own little pocket therapist in our hands, right? And so there is no one event that needs to bring you there. Just come as you are.
That's so, I love that. I can't believe how fast this half hour went. We're clearly going to have you both back on to talk more about your show. How do folks connect with you?
Find us on becomingtogethermn.com. We really believe in those two words. We are always becoming, and we need to do that together. They are synonymous with each other and happen in tandem with one another. So becomingtogethermn.com, you can find our whole team. Also, you can look us up at AM 950. Look up the Feels Out Loud page. Find us there. You can see our episodes and take a listen. We would love to have new listeners tune in and certainly submit questions or thoughts about future shows. We do really listen to our listeners. They are part of our show every single week and in responding to their questions, and we get ideas from them.
That is great. Social media?
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can follow Becoming Together MN. Yes, absolutely. Look us up.
Perfect. Well, folks, 5-star review. So go to the am950radio.com. I'm sure also you can go to our, the YouTube channel, AM950 YouTube channel, everywhere you get your podcast as well, to listen to Feels Out Loud. For right now, stay tuned. The Matt McNeil Show is up next. And after that, at 5 p.m. Native Roots Radio. Until tomorrow at 2 p.m., keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.